Wow. I take my gun and I go, pew, 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 pew.
Alright, let's get into Chapter 11, Captain Nobody Faces a Fear. I never would have expected the changes I saw in my schoolmates. As the day went on, I got the feeling that the theory linking my appearance as Captain Nobody with my brother's accident had made the rounds. So what this means here is the rumor that the teachers let him be Captain Nobody because of his brother's accident, right? Everybody seems to have heard about that. By the end of school, the teasing I encountered earlier had turned to curiosity and even sympathy. People who had sneered or stared bug-eyed before lunch began asking, "How's it going?" as they passed me in the hallways. A few even patted me on my cape and encouraged me to be strong. As I walked home that afternoon, amused and puzzled by my day, I remembered that my parents hadn't seen me yet. How would they react? They may have laughed to see me in Chris's old clothes on Halloween night, but what if they'd freaked out now? Upsetting them was the last thing I wanted to do. I broke into a run, determined to get back home and change before Mom or Dad got back from the hospital. And I would have made it too if Cecil's walkie-talkie hadn't squawked just then. "This is Cecil Butterworth calling Captain Nobody. Come in. Over." So usually over, when you're talking on walkie-talkies or things like that, that's what you have to say at the end. For a moment I considered ignoring Cecil, but when he added, "I'm not fooling around, over," I laughed and pulled the walkie-talkie from my bag. "What do you want, Cecil?" He sounded out of breath. "When you finish talking, you're supposed to say over," he said. "Over?" I said. "Okay, over already." "That's better," he replied. "Captain Nobody, come quick. Over." "What? Why?" There was a long silence until I figured out what he was waiting for. I pressed the send button and grumbled, "Over." "I can't explain, but meet me in 3 minutes at the corner of Warren and Candor." These are street names. "Over." And before I could say, "What for?" Cecil snapped off his receiver. I paced back and forth on the sidewalk, caught halfway between my house and the street corner Cecil had named. The way Cecil shouted, "Captain Nobody, come quick," had tweaked my curiosity, and I had a choice. I could go home and change my clothes in time to greet my parents, or I could spend just a little longer as my inner other. What would you have done? It's a good question. What would you do there? Cecil started waving frantically the moment I turned onto Candor Street. "Captain Nobody! Thank goodness you're here." He was holding the long black handle of a low red wagon. "What's that for?" I asked as I got nearer. "And what's so important that I had to come quick?" "I could tell you," Cecil said as he headed down a nearby alley, "but it's easier just to show you." I followed as he pulled the wagon, bumping and bouncing over the potholed asphalt. A pothole is like when there's kind of a hole in the road. Past dumpsters and garbage cans. "There," he exclaimed. "Have you ever seen anything so beautiful?" On top of the dumpster, packed full to the brim with crates and boxes, sat a big bass drum. Its shiny metal blue frame was dented all over, and one of its two little kickstand legs was bent at a wonky angle. "It's pretty banged up," I noted. "Not where it matters," Cecil assured me. "Look at that skin, not a tear anywhere." It was true. From where we stood, the drum head, the place you hit to make the noise, that's what the drum head is, looked pretty good. "Even so," I said slowly, "there's a reason someone threw it away." "So what if it's got a few dings? That doesn't change the sound," Cecil glazed up fondly. "It's the first piece in my very own drum kit." A drum kit is like all the drums that you need to play the drums. After a long silence, I finally spoke. "Hey Cecil, I didn't mean to break up your little love affair with the garbage, but why am I here?" "Because there's no way I could possibly climb up there and bring that thing down alone. The way the dumpster loomed over my head, it might as well have been a skyscraper." My fear of heights immediately kicked in as my palms began to sweat. It's fear of heights, right? So remember, the name of this chapter is Captain Nobody Faces a Fear. So we can tell that Captain Nobody and obviously Newt, his fear is heights. "You know what?" I suggested. "Why don't you climb up there and hand it down to me?" "Well, that's just dumb," Cecil scoffed. "If I slip and drop it, then the thing could crush you. But if I slip and drop it and you'll be crushed," I pointed out before adding quietly, "and besides, you know I hate heights. That's why this job calls for Captain Nobody. He's fearless." Cecil said that last part with such conviction, right? Such conviction in this case means like so much honesty that my heart gave a little kick in my chest. After all, who knew what Captain Nobody was capable of? This discarded drum was Cecil's dream, and there it was, just out of reach. How could I not help? I set my book bag down, wiping my damp palms on my red sweatpants. I walked to the back of the dumpster. Slowly and carefully, I climbed up the rungs sticking out of the side of the big steel box. When I reached the top, I pulled myself over onto the trash heap and stood up. Big mistake. The instant I saw how high up I was, I dropped to my hands and knees, panting furiously. Fortunately, Cecil was so busy positioning his wagon that he didn't see my panic. I'm not supposed to be anybody, I reminded myself in a whisper. I am Captain Nobody. That calmed me down enough, and I managed to crawl over the pile of crumpled boxes, lawn cuttings, and plastic garbage. When I reached the drum, I tugged it to the front lip of the bin and called down, "You ready?" "Ready," Cecil shouted. But when I looked over the edge of the dumpster, I found that he was standing in the bed of his red wagon, reaching up. "Get out of that thing, Cecil," I yelled down. "If it rolls, you're going down like Humpty Dumpty." "Oh, God, good thinking." He hopped to the pavement and pushed the wagon to one side. "See, that's why you're Captain Nobody and I'm the sidekick." It was hard work, but gripping the drum's battered rim and letting it slide over the side, I was able to slowly ease it down to Cecil's waiting hands. "Got it?" I asked. "Got it," Cecil grunted, taking the full weight of his treasure into his upstretched arms. He staggered for a moment, dropped to one knee, and lowered the drum into his red wagon with a thump. Then he straightened up, and with an open palm, he thwacked the drumskin. Boom! "Wow, wow, wow," Cecil repeated over and over. I guess it had all been worth it. With great care, I crawled back to the rear of the dumpster and swung a leg over the edge. My foot searched around until I found the first rung, and then I clambered down backwards. I was feeling pretty pumped up, right? I was excited for my first adventure, and at least until a gnarled hand suddenly shot out from a stack of cardboard boxes piled up against the wall and grabbed me by the ankle. I screamed like a cheerleader in a horror film. So this obviously means he screamed really loud. So we'll find out in the next chapter who this hand belongs to. Can't wait.